I was still in my greasy cafe apron after a double shift when my stepmother walked into the kitchen, crossed her arms, and calmly informed me that I now owed her $800 a month to keep living in the home I'd grown up in. Her tone was practiced, almost satisfied, like she'd been waiting for the perfect moment to say it. Blake was downstairs screaming at his video game. Luna posed in the hallway, recording herself for the millionth time. Yet somehow I was the one she decided needed to start contributing. I didn't argue. I didn't even blink. She had no idea she'd just activated the one truth that could shatter everything she thought she controlled. People think a house becomes yours the day you move into it. But for me, this place belonged to me long before I even understood what belonging meant. I was 8 when my mom died, and the world fell silent in a way no child should ever experience. My grandparents, Harold and Elise, stepped in instantly. They sold their little house across town, moved into this 4-bedroom home in Denver, and filled every dusty corner with warmth my father wasn't capable of giving then. I remember Elise sitting beside me at the old wooden table, showing me how to cut vegetables slowly, safely. I remember the smell of simmering broth, the sound of her gentle laugh, each one stitching pieces of safety back into me. Outside, Harold tended the garden, humming as he trimmed the same roses my mom planted years before. Every breeze felt like a whisper from her. That's why this place mattered. It wasn't just drywall. It was memory made solid. Then Selena arrived. My father met her at some work event, and before I could adjust, she was rolling glossy suitcases across our living room floor, commenting on how she didn't mind old-fashioned decor. Her smile never reached her eyes. Within a week she'd rearranged the entire kitchen. A week after that, she removed my grandmother's ceramic bowls and replaced them with sleek, soulless ones she called updated. Harold only nodded, but I caught the tension in his jaw. Her kids, Blake and Luna, acted like they owned the place from day one. Blake took over the den for his gaming kingdom. Luna spread her clothes across 2 closets and complained that the lighting wasn't ideal for content. I was 12 when the chores quietly shifted onto my shoulders. At first it was simple, vacuuming, setting the table. Then laundry. Then everything. If I ever asked why Blake and Luna didn't do anything, Selena would tilt her head and say, "They just have different needs. You're more responsible." My father never protested. Honestly, I think he was relieved someone else was running the household he'd emotionally checked out of years before. By 16, I was the invisible engine keeping the place functional. Blake slept till noon, leaving piles of sour-smelling clothes in the hall. Luna filmed herself laughing at jokes she wasn't actually making. Selena glided from room to room, lightly swiping surfaces for dust and pretending it counted as cleaning. She always paused briefly at my mom's photo, but never acknowledged it. Outside this home, everything felt normal. Friends. School. A cafe job. Inside, I was a ghost with a to-do list. But I told myself it was temporary. That my dad needed stability. That being kind mattered. But resentment doesn't disappear. It stacks, one quiet insult at a time, until the smallest extra weight tips everything. And that shift began long before she demanded rent. The weeks leading up to her ultimatum were already suffocating. I'd taken extra shifts to pay for my online classes, and every night I came home to new responsibilities. Selena never wrote them down, she simply declared them. "Laundry's on Tuesdays now," she'd say, handing me Blake's overflowing basket. "The upstairs bathroom needs scrubbing again, even though Luna's makeup dust was the real culprit. Wipe the baseboards too. Old houses collect dirt." She loved calling it an old house. Meanwhile, Blake yelled into his headset, and Luna recorded hallway videos, glaring if I walked through frame. Sometimes she'd say, "You should try dressing better. It might help your confidence," before smiling sweetly at her phone. Selena's escalation was subtle. She'd circle my name on bills with a highlighter, as if I needed reminders she created. She'd hover behind me as I cooked, correcting seasoning, adjusting heat, sighing dramatically. She'd tell my father, in a voice meant for me to hear, that I needed to become independent before adulthood passes her by. But the moment everything snapped wasn't the rent demand. It was the evening I passed her partially open meditation room door and heard her talking to my father. She needs space, Richard. Sending her to an out-of-state college would be best for all of us. My father mumbled something. Selina continued, she's too attached to this house. Distance will help her grow. The words crushed the air out of me. I stood frozen in the hallway, grocery bags in my hands, cold air still clinging to my jacket. She didn't just want me to work. She wanted me gone. That night, folding towels in the laundry room, I replayed every word. My father's silence. Selina's confidence. The absolute certainty in her tone, like she was already designing a future where I didn't exist. And something inside me shifted. Not grief. Not fear. Something sharper, cleaner. I'd spent years believing silence kept the peace. That patience made me strong. That kindness would be returned someday. But Selina had just made the mistake of forgetting one thing. This house wasn't hers. And she had no idea what I was capable of when pushed. Standing there beneath the buzzing fluorescent light, I finally understood something. My silence wasn't just convenient for Selina, it was her strategy. She thrived on me staying quiet, staying small. She truly believed she had the upper hand. She believed she had mapped out every corner of this house, every weakness in me. She believed I would never dare push back. She could not have been more wrong. Because that night, a memory surfaced, my grandmother standing at the kitchen counter, hands dusted in flour, gently shaping dough as she told me, the moment you let someone shrink your place inside your own home, you lose far more than a room. You lose yourself. I had lost enough already. And reclaiming myself began with something she never saw coming. The next morning, the entire house felt colder, not physically, but in spirit. Like the walls were holding their breath. I washed the dishes Blake had dumped in the sink, replaying Selina's quiet plan to ship me off like unwanted clutter. But the fear was gone. All that remained was focus. When the last dish was rinsed, I slipped into the storage room at the back of the house, a place still scented faintly with Elisa's lavender sachets. Dust floated in a thin beam of winter light as I knelt beside the old cedar chest. Inside were artifacts of a life before Selina, Harold's worn gardening gloves, a recipe book softened by use, photographs with corners curled like dried leaves. And then I saw it. An envelope with my name written in my grandmother's unmistakable handwriting, precise, steady, deliberate. My fingers shook as I opened it. Inside were documents. No confusing legal jargon. No messy instructions. Just clear, simple statements revealing what I never dreamed was true. My grandparents hadn't simply moved into this home. They had purchased it outright, and before they died, they legally transferred ownership to me. Quietly. Purposefully. As if they anticipated the day I'd need shelter from someone like Selina. I sat on the wooden floor, the papers resting in my lap, memories swirling around me, Elisa's voice humming, Harold's boots thudding against the back steps. The room felt full, as if they were standing right beside me. Not pushing me toward revenge, but reminding me that Selina's version of reality had never been the whole story. Later that afternoon, I drove across Denver to see Marilyn, my mother's closest friend. Her little craftsman house smelled like cinnamon and old books. She listened without a single interruption as I explained everything, Selina's manipulation, my father's silence, the rent demand, the plan to exile me, the documents I discovered. When I finished, she rested a hand over mine. Aurora, your grandparents saw you. They trusted your strength long before you could name it. This house isn't just property, it's protection. And you're allowed to protect it. Her words settled deeper than any comfort I'd felt in years. We spent the next hour going through more papers Elise had entrusted to Marilyn for safekeeping. Old receipts. Notes Harold scribbled about repairs. Even a few saved voicemails where Selina spoke sharply to Elise years ago, not explosive, but enough to show a pattern. It wasn't ammunition. It was clarity. By the time I left, twilight had dipped Denver into a cool, blue haze. Driving home, I felt something steady take hold inside me, determination, maybe even courage. Selena wanted me out. Instead, she reminded me exactly why I belonged. That night, when I walked through the door and found her lounging on the couch scrolling through her phone, the truth clicked into place. She had no idea the ground beneath her feet had already shifted. And by the end of the week, she would feel it. I hadn't planned to confront her yet. I thought I'd need more time. But the next evening, she forced my hand. I walked in after a long closing shift, still smelling faintly of espresso, and found her waiting at the dining table with a neatly arranged folder. Blake sprawled on the couch behind her, headset dangling around his neck. Luna sat on the floor, ring light glowing as she scrolled. Selena greeted me with a cold smile. Perfect timing, Aurora. We need to talk about your financial contribution. There it was. The rehearsed line. The spark that would burn down the whole illusion. I took my time removing my coat, letting the silence stretch. Contribution? I asked calmly. She slid a paper toward me. $800 a month, plus utilities. It's only fair. Her eyes flicked toward Blake and Luna. Everyone has responsibilities. I looked at the trio she was supposedly referring to, Blake brushing crumbs off his shirt, Luna adjusting her lighting, both contributing nothing but noise. Everyone? I repeated softly. Selena's smile wavered. Don't start. They're focusing on their futures. You have a job now. A dry laugh slipped out of me. Their futures, I echoed. Blake rolled his eyes. Here we go. Luna didn't even look up. Some people just don't get it. Selena's voice sharpened. This is happening. Your father agrees. It's time you learn independence. Independence, in a home built on my grandparents' sacrifices. In a home I'd cooked in, cleaned in, carried in. The home Elise had cried in after losing her daughter. The home Harold repaired with his bare hands. She couldn't have picked a worse word. I pushed the paper back toward her. If we're going to discuss this, then everyone comes downstairs. We do this together. Selena adored the performance of authority, so she agreed. 5 minutes later, my father hurried in, tie crooked, face weary. What's going on? Selena answered before I could speak. Your daughter is refusing to help support this household. I didn't look at her. I looked straight at him. Dad, do you honestly think I should be paying $800 to live here? He hesitated, just long enough to. That hesitation confirmed exactly what I feared. Selena and I discussed it, my father said quietly. It seems fair. Fair? I repeated, my voice calm but razor thin. You think it's fair for me to pay rent while Blake and Luna contribute nothing? They're still trying to figure out their direction, he murmured. I took a breath, absorbing every second of the moment, then set Elisa's envelope gently on the table. Then let's talk about the house, I said. Selena's expression flickered, just a brief, brittle crack beneath the polish. What are you talking about? I opened the envelope and laid out the documents without flourish, letting the truth rest between us like a dropped stone. This home, I said steadily, is legally mine. A stunned silence rippled through the room. Blake froze mid-chew. Luna's phone dipped from her hands. And my father's face collapsed into guilt. Selena barked a laugh, sharp, desperate. This is ridiculous. Some fantasy you've made up. Richard, please. I didn't look away from her. Dad's known since the day my grandparents passed. My father exhaled slowly. Selena, it's true. Harold and Elise put the house in Aurora's name. The world seemed to still. Selena shot to her feet, her chair screeching across the floor. Why was I never told? She demanded. Why would you keep something like this from me? It didn't seem relevant, my father muttered. Not relevant, she snapped. I've managed this home for over a decade. I deserve to know. Deserve? I cut in, my tone cutting and controlled. You've treated me like a maid in the home my grandparents paid for with their lives. Her face twisted. You ungrateful little. No, I said sharply. We're done rewriting the truth. I reached into my bag and placed another folder on the table. This is a record of every bill, every repair, every cost I've covered in this house for years. My father's shoulders slumped as he flipped through the pages. Aurora, why didn't you say anything? You never asked, I replied. Selina snatched the paperwork and scanned it in frantic disbelief. This means nothing. You think a few receipts give you power? You think old documents make you the boss? I didn't flinch. I simply pulled out my phone and hit play. Her own voice filled the room, the recording from her meditation room. She needs space, Richard. Sending her out of state would be good for everyone. She's holding us back. She's too attached to this house. My father went ghost white. Blake whispered, "Holy crap." Luna's lips parted in horrified silence. Selina lunged across the table. You recorded me. That's legal, I said coolly. And overdue. Her eyes darted wildly from face to face as the reality dawned across all of them. This is my home, she breathed. I've lived here 12 years. You can't just throw me out. I slid the final folder toward her. You're right, I said. I can't. Colorado housing law can. She looked down. An official eviction notice stared back up at her. Her face drained of color, her mouth opening soundlessly. Richard, she whispered, shaking. Say something. Stop this. My father stared at the table, his voice small. Selina, it's her house. Blake jumped up. Where are we supposed to live? That, I said calmly, is no longer my burden to carry. Luna's eyes filled with tears, but even then she lifted her phone slightly, as though instinctively preparing to record her own breakdown. Selina shook her head over and over. This is insane. This is punishment. No, I said softly. This is the boundary I should have drawn years ago. Chaos broke loose, accusations, pacing, tears, disbelief. My father sank into a chair, finally seeing the destruction he'd let grow. Selina ranted. Blake cursed. Luna sobbed. And I just stood there, finally centered in my own life. I gathered the documents, slipped them back into Elisa's envelope, and stepped toward the hallway. You have 2 weeks to move out, I said. After that, the locks change. Selina stopped mid-rant. You think you're strong enough for this? I held her gaze with a calm she couldn't unravel. I didn't think so. But you showed me exactly what strength is. Then I walked upstairs, leaving them in stunned silence. For the first time in years, I felt something powerful settle over me, my grandparents' certainty, steady and warm. This wasn't vengeance. It was reclaiming what was always mine. 2 weeks flew by. The morning Selina finally walked out of the house was strangely still. No sugary perfume clouding the hallways. No shouting from the den. No footsteps meant to remind me who she thought she was. Blake dragged out his gaming setup, complaining the whole time. Luna cried dramatically, mascara streaking, but even that didn't shake me. I stood in the doorway, unmoving. Not heartless. Just free. My father didn't officially move out, but he only came by sporadically. When he did, he sat quietly, as if wandering through a life he'd let someone else construct. We talked, soft, unsure, but neither of us pretended we could return to what we were. After the house emptied, I opened every window and let the winter air sweep through, cleansing the rooms. A week later, Marilyn moved into a spare bedroom with her warm soups, her quiet wisdom, and stories about my mom I'd never heard. Together, we brought back the small touches Elise loved. For the first time in years, I woke up without bracing myself for impact. This house wasn't a battleground anymore. It was mine. Truly mine. Reclaiming it wasn't about land or legalities, it was about finally choosing myself after years of shrinking to accommodate people who never gave anything back. My grandparents didn't just leave me a home. They left me a reminder. Love protects, even from beyond the years. If you've ever had to fight for your place in your own family, you're not alone. Share your story below, and subscribe for more chapters of mine. Sometimes justice whispers, but when it settles, it changes everything.